I don't know, we're put under a really awkward clock from this aberration, so I feel like we have no choice but to jam into their counter magic. Alright, let's just have our opponent tap out here, and then we'll top deck and play Primeval Titan, and the game will be over. It'll be no big deal. Hello, and welcome, guys. We are here for the next league with Amulet Titan, and this time we are playing Karn the Great Creator, of course. It's been pretty much the normal and the new and improved modern metagame, as Amulet Titan has sort of come back on the map, as if I wasn't already playing it anyways. And Karn is the way to beat our opponents who are playing Blood Moons all over the place. It's very good against the Aether Gust strategies that are planning on using Aether Gust to stop us from casting Titan, and instead we can just Karn them. And if they don't have the Force or the interaction spell that turn, Karn will put us in a very good position, eating away a land every turn with coding, and much more, as hopefully we'll see in the games. And yeah, Karn has just been a pretty good improvement to Amulet recently, so I'm going to give it a spin, of course, again. And to compensate for the fact that we have Karn, we also have a few additional cards, such as Ancient Stirrings, that will help us find a Karn, or a bounce land, or an untapped source, or an Amulet as well. And Ancient Stirrings just tends to work very synergistically with this type of build. And as a side effect of the fact that we're playing Ancient Stirrings, we're a little more likely to have these double Amulet draws, where Boros Garrison, Slayer's Stronghold, and Sunhome Fortress of the Legion will allow us to just kill our opponent in one shot with a Primeval Titan. So we are playing the Garrison, the Sunhome, and the Stronghold for that reason. No Hanweirs here. And yeah, in the sideboard, we have a couple answers to Blood Moons or other artifacts or enchantments that our opponent might have. We have a Baloth for those aggressive and really fast matchups where we need the life gain from Baloth to help us stabilize. A couple of Dismembers to help us against, for example, Hammer Time, or these aggressive strategies like Heliod Company, where we can use Dismember to hopefully dismantle some of their combo. And then a huge Karn board, including 3 copies of Engineered Explosives to deal with the Death Shadow opponents. Sky Sovereign, because I happen to like this card very much, and I much prefer it to Walking Ballista myself. We'll see if that becomes justified in the games. Of course, Liquid Metal Coating, Grafdigger's Cage, and Tormod's Crypt. Might be incorrect to have both, but here we are, and we'll see which comes up more frequently. Grafdigger's Cage wouldn't be better in general against things like Storm, or against things like Oops All Spells, whereas Tormod's Crypt being a one-shot effect. I don't know, they have different utility, so we'll see if we can get the utility from both of these cards. And of course, we have our one Ghost Quarter that would usually be in the main board, now in the sideboard, so that we do have access to this effect against Tron or against the Mystic Sanctuary opponents, where Ghost Quarter is very good. But in general, Ghost Quarter tends to be pretty lackluster in the main board. So that is the explanation for the deck list, and I will see you guys in the games. All right, we have our match. Let's jump on in here. On the play, of course. Lots of notifications popping up on the side here. We have a hand that plays a turn 2 Grazer. And a turn 4 Titan, it looks like. If we draw an untapped source, then we can play Explore on turn 2 instead of Grazer. If we draw a Karn, this hand is pretty good, as it plays a turn 3 Karn. No, I guess it only is a turn 4 Karn. That said, I think that Grazer is generally pretty good, and we have Explore as a redraw if we need to dig for something else. So I'm going to give it a shot. Pass it back to our opponent here. The only way we get punished for leading on Garenbrig here is if we top deck exactly Amulet. If we had led on Tolaria West, we could play Amulet, then Garenbrig into Grazer or something like that. Our opponent plays Misty Rainforest and passes. Interesting. So now we can explore here. I think I like that better than playing the Grazer, so get this Explorer in underneath a Mana Leak or something like that, if our opponent does happen to be playing those types of effects. Another bounce land is actually pretty fine. I'm going to go ahead and throw one of those bounce lands in play. And pass it back, giving us another untapped source somewhere down the line. Thought Scour targeting themselves, of course, milling Snapcaster Mage. But it has a very pretty deck on their side of the table. Lots of foils and expeditions. Very nice. It's been a while since I saw Thought Scour and Snapcaster Mage in the same deck, so that's kind of curious. Thought Scour targeting us, hitting a Karn and an untapped land. We don't mind that much. Turn Timber Symbiosis. Wow. Okay. Our opponent's on a blue-green deck of some sort over there. I didn't really expect them to be playing green, in all honesty, even though they had Misty Rainforest. Hooting Mandrills. Okay, okay. I see what's going on here. I mean, I say that, but I actually am not entirely sure what's going on here. Alright, let's get this Grazer into play. And I think putting out the Fountain here is going to be just fine. And we can play Growth Chamber to get value off our Fountain and plan to just slam a Titan this upcoming turn. We have a chump blocker for the Mandrills if we so desire. And yeah. Scalding Tarn. I wouldn't be surprised if our opponent was also playing something like Traverse the Ulvenwald and their Mishra's Bauble Shell here. I suppose we might want to hold on to the Grazer in case our opponent goes for the Snapcaster Beats or something. We've already gained 4 life from our Radiant Fountain alone, so 1 hit is pretty free. They're going to cast a Magmatic Channeler. 2-mana 1/3. It has the ability to discard a card and exile the top 2 cards of their library, and then they can choose one to play this turn. And as long as there are 4 or more instants or sorceries, it gets +3/+1. Definitely a very threatening card. Our opponent isn't holding up interaction for our Titan, though, so I feel like this game is pretty over. Let me make sure I'm not making any missequencing. I don't think there's any particular intriguing thing we can do with our Titan. What lands do we want to get? If we had 1 more additional land drop, we could actually play Valakut, Pact for a Dryad, and play 2 lands and kill something, but we are not going to be able to trigger Valakut this turn. So we're definitely slamming a Titan. I guess it makes sense for our Titan to get Garrison and something else, so that we can haste another Titan if they answer this one, like if they have Double Bolt or something. Like Garrison and Bajuka Bog seems pretty good to me. We do have a Telaria already to go with our blue sources, so we don't need to try to set up a 3rd Titan, even if our Sonus Pact isn't good enough for the 2nd one. Alright, well, I think there's no reason not to just jam Titan here. We're not going to be able to trigger Feel the Dead, sadly. So, might as well just do this. And I do think that the Boros Garrison and Bajuka Bog should be the play. Keep our opponent off of their Channeler a little bit. Stop another Delve threat from coming into play. Yeah, that seems fine. And here, I guess we'll just pick up the Bajuka Bog to the Garrison. And play the Valakut out. Get a tap land out of the way and pass it back. See if our opponent can beat this board state. Shatter Skull smashing. Interesting. So our opponent could be on some sort of Delver deck. They do have Bolt. They have the Double Bolt here, as we anticipated. Alright, that's acceptable. Channeler is still not active as a 4/4 here, which is nice. They're discarding a land to the Channeler. We're obviously going to be Bajuka Bogging them, I think. Delver of Secrets. Not super surprising here with their spell lands. It might be better to just go ahead and get the Dryad going instead of another Titan here. That could be kind of crazy, though. Still think we can wait on this Grazer. I'm not worried about 4 damage here, so. Karn. That one's intriguing. We could Karn for Wormcoil and play Wormcoil. Our opponent would have to have exactly Force to deal with either of these threats. If we got Dryad, we would be able to play land and kill the Channeler and the Delver, and then I don't know if our opponent has a way to come back from that. They could have Dismember, I suppose, and that would be pretty problematic. They're not holding up something like Vapor Snag, but if they had exactly Dismember, then Dryad would be a little bit of an unfortunate line to take. Of course, if they do Dismember, then we can just cast Karn afterwards. Interesting. If we get a Titan here and haste it, we can put our opponent to 2 and get Feel the Dead triggers. It's probably better to just haste a Titan here. I think that's likely to be the case. Okay. I think that's what I'm going to go for. And if our opponent does have a force or something to interact with this pack, then we'll just play Karn, I suppose. We'll play the Titan, making sure we don't play land drop here, as we need to get a bounce land and the haste land in order to haste our Titan this turn. Yep. So we want the Stronghold and, say, a Selesnya Sanctuary. We'll pick up this Stronghold and play it for turn. And our Titan also does double duty by blocking here, which is pretty nice. Not something that you would be able to do with a Hanweir Battlements build. And now we can get Field the Dead and something else. Do we have, what is it, 6 land names? So we need Field. Oh, our opponent just scoops it up. All right. Well, let's go to game 2. Oh, goodness, look at this sideboard. Let's sort by color. There we go. That's a little easier. So against our Delver opponent, we obviously want Dismembers to try to play on the tempo front. Explosives seems mildly interesting. It does answer Delver and Channeler, but that's about it. It's not very good against their Hooting Mandrills, but they could also have something like Tarmogoyf, so I'm going to bring in a couple explosives, I think. Definitely want all of the Karn targets in the sideboard here. I don't mind leaving 1 explosives, as I'm not sure that we want that many explosives in the deck anyways. Ghost Quarter against potential Mystic Sanctuary doesn't seem to be relevant, since our opponent is relying pretty heavily on these spell lands anyways. Not really anticipating Force of Vigor to be relevant, nor Wilt or Reclamation Sage. Baloth trades with a Hooting Mandrills or a Channeler and gains us some life, so it's not really the worst, but it might be kind of a waste of a slot. So we'll see if we have stuff we want to cut. We can trim 1 Summoner's Pact, as it does make us tap out the turn after that we play it. Grazer doesn't seem that great. I'll trim 1. Explore's a little slow, but it's probably good. Azusa dies to Bolt. I think that's a reason enough to trim the Azusa. We have to be mindful that we can't Summoner's Pact for an Azusa if we wanted to do some kind of crazy Titan turn thing, which I'm not anticipating to be the case anyways. Gotta cut 1 more card. Can't see a land in particular that I want to cut. Maybe Garenbrig, but probably not. Maybe it's just another Grazer. I don't know. Protecting Karn seems like it could be very good, though. And Grazer also lets us cast an early or accelerated Karn. I'm going to trim 1 Explorer, as it does play into their counter magic a little bit, if they do have things like Mana Leak and Remand, which I think is a safe assumption. And this hand lets us cast turn 1 Grazer, turn 2 Explorer, so I think I'm willing to keep this. We can fetch for a basic forest to cast the Grazer. I don't think our opponent would be playing Blood Moon, but I could be wrong, as they do lead on a Snow Island here. I think it's probably pretty safe to lead on the Vestige here and save our Windswept Heath to determine whether we want to get Breeding Pool or not later. Here's the Grazer. We'll put in 1 of these Growth Chambers and pass it back. Hope they don't flip the Delver. And they do not. That is nice. Another basic land, huh? Playing all the basics. I can't imagine our opponent would be playing Blood Moon, but I am going to play around it. I think we're probably getting a basic force with this Heath. Although, admittedly, that doesn't play around a whole lot anyways, since it's not like we have a way to get rid of Blood Moon in the main board here. We'd have to be able to resolve and keep a Dryad in play, and then also draw Engineered Explosives and play it on 3 with Dryad in play in order to kill a Blood Moon, so maybe it's not even worth playing around, but... And here, since our opponent is not holding up any kind of interaction, we could Summoner's Pact in order to get a Dryad into play right now, which doesn't seem the worst. If our opponent has any kind of land destruction effect, I wouldn't expect Field of Ruin, but I could see them having Cleansing Wildfire to kill our Growth Chamber, and then we die to the Pact trigger, so it's probably too risky. I think we just go for the Explorer here. Pains me to say it, but I think that is the case. Dismember is a nice one to have. Alright, so in that case, I think I'm pretty interested in playing Windswept Heath and Sunhome, so that we can keep our Dismember up here in case our opponent's Delver flips or something like that. This also lets us play around Blood Moon, potentially. So if you want to flip that Delver, they reveal Lightning Bolt, so I assume they're going to be killing our Arboreal Grazer. That would make a lot of sense. Yep, there goes the Grazer. Extremely happy that we traded a card with this Grazer here and got to ramp a little bit. That's very nice. I think we're also pretty safe to Dismember here, as if our opponent has a Mana Leak or a Remand, we would all we would have to do is play a Garenbrig in order to cast Titan this upcoming turn, so I think it's probably in our favor to Dismember here. If they call our bluff and say, you don't have Garenbrig plus Titan, then I guess we get a little bit got here, but I guess we could have saved 2 points of life by using Vestige to make it black and doing this during our turn, but I don't know. If we do top deck Garenbrig, then this will pay off a lot. Simic Charm to hexproof it. Okay, you got a 3/3, that's fine. So yield until the end step. We probably want to fetch here to make ourselves a little more likely to draw that Garenbrig. It also forces us into choosing whether or not to play around Blood Moon. Of course, I think our opponent fetched up this Breeding Pool with the Scalding Tarn, which makes me a little more likely to believe that they're probably not playing Blood Moon. Alright, I think I'm just going to fetch for the Breeding Pool. If they have Blood Moon, then we'll just sideboard accordingly and try to win a game 3. Alright, Garenbrig off the top. Amulet. That is close, but it does not quite do it. Might as well get a Gruul Turf into play, I suppose. Pick up the Sunhome, pass it back. Well, now we could be in trouble, since we couldn't slam a Titan that turn. Our opponent will be able to hold up interaction from this point. Not clear whether it's going to be right to jam into that interaction or not. Hopefully our opponent does something like taps out for an Ashiok here, and we can pact for something in response. And then just play Titan this upcoming turn. They don't. Field of the Dead. Alright. We can play that one. Now, if we were to summon his Pact 4 and play a Titan here, we'd be playing into Mana Leak, which is pretty unfortunate. I don't think there's a reason to do that, so... I mean, we are on a 3-turn clock here, though. Summoner's Pacting also means that we can't go for a Titan this upcoming turn, even if we were to put a Titan on top due to Gust or something. I don't know. We're put under a really awkward clock from this aberration, so I feel like we have no choice but to jam into their counter magic. That is the benefit of playing a tempo deck like this against Amulet is, I mean, we're not really ready to go for it here, but we have no choice. Forced Negation. Actually, that could have been a lot worse. And they exiled to the Force instead of just paying for it, which is interesting. Let's top deck actual factual Primeval Titan off the top, please. I'm assuming they do have a Gust or a Leak here, though, as that's the only reason they would pitch to Force instead of just hardcasting it, so... We might want to wait an additional turn, like play Sunhome, and the next turn play Vestige, so that we can play around Mana Leak. Would have been nice if this Sunhome had been a Radiant Fountain. That way we'd have a couple of additional points of life to give us some breathing room here. Hootie Mandrels. Alright, well, it's Titan or Bust. Dismember. Okay. Well, we're casting that one. Making a black, of course. Gotta kill the Mandrels, I think. If we kill the Delver, we take 2 down to 4, and then we just die. So yeah, we have to kill the Mandrels here, which is kind of sad. But it is what it is. And if our opponent counters this, then we're just dead. It worked. Alright, so we get one more turn, potentially, unless they have a Bolt. They're at exactly 16, so a Titan off the top probably just wins the game. We do have Sunhome in hand. Right, we just need to resolve Titan this turn. Primeval Titan off the top. Let's go. Titan. Titan. That is not a Titan. All right, so game 3. Yeah, I don't think we want to play around Blood Moon, although our opponent has fetched in such a way that they represent Blood Moon. Pretty awkward, pretty awkward. Maybe we do want the other explosives in this matchup. Unclear. Baloth doesn't seem bad either. It helps us fight back against their tempo draws by giving us our own clock to bash them with while they're bashing us. So I don't mind Baloth. And we probably do want the explosives as well. Azusa doesn't seem super relevant. Explore seems very good, actually. Grazer seems fine. I think 3 Grazers is fine. Karn, maybe not the most effective in this matchup, in all honesty. I could see trimming Karn, as they can just clock Karn with their flyers and whatnot. I mean, Karn is most likely just going to get engineered explosives in this matchup, or maybe Wormcoil Engine, but we could submit like this. Could also trim and explore to get a Karn in here. Trim, explore, engineer explosives for 2 Karns. Doesn't seem the worst. Our opponent showed a stubborn denial as well, actually, when they exiled it to the Force, so that maybe that makes us not want Karn at all, as Karn is weak to stubborn denial. Alright, let's run it back like this. I think this is fine. It might be correct to have Wormcoil Engine in our main 60 here, playing for game 3, but we'll do it live. We'll figure it out. This hand looks like a keep to me. It has a Titan mana, it has a couple blockers and explosives to interact, so we're obviously going to be playing a Grazer on one. And I think we're going to be setting up for a turn 2 Dryad if we happen to draw it. Delver. I'm not opposed to playing and popping explosives on one here. It might be the correct move. I think we might as well get 1 block out of our Grazer first. So maybe we play explosives on one so that it can't be countered later. And we can cast another Grazer into the explosives. I don't know if that's going to be worth it, though. I think it probably is. We'll get this Breeding Pool into play. And play Radiant Fountain, I suppose. And pass it back. If our opponent flips Delver, it's no big deal, as we can just block anyways. They did flip, and they have a Force, so it's probably a good thing we already committed this explosives. Wildfire, that's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. Obviously trumping here. Dryad. Now, that one is a fantastic draw. I don't want to always yield that one. And I suppose we might as well pass. No reason to play this Grazer just yet. Now we just need a land and a Titan. Another Wildfire. That one's a little problematic. We can still use Garenbrigg and Titan. And be able to cast what we want to cast. It's a good thing we didn't just slam into our opponent's possible Cleansing Wildfire in the last game, as we might have just lost on the spot then. So, glad to know in hindsight that it was the correct choice. Let's go ahead and pop the explosives. We'll play our Gruul Turf here. Pick up this Radiant Fountain and play it again. And I think perhaps we just go ahead and commit the Grazer now as well as an additional blocker. I don't see a reason to hold on to it at this point, so. Clocking for 2. Don't see a reason not to. Now, Titan off the top is very good. Wonder if our opponent has another threat here. Leaning on Serum Visions indicates that they might not, but it also might mean they just want more information before they commit to anything. They put one card on the bottom and one card on top with their Serum. Alright, let's just have our opponent tap out here, and then we'll top deck and play Primeval Titan, and the game will be over. It'll be no big deal. Alright, step 1 is achieved. Alright, Titan off the top. Another Dryad, huh? I mean, I guess we're playing that. And passing it back. Now we can put 2 Dryads in front of the Mandrills and get it off the battlefield, which seems like it would be a pretty good play. Curious Obsession. +1/+1, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Well, I mean, do we eat up our 3 points of life here with our Grazer? I don't see a reason not to. It's still going to let them draw a card, which is pretty annoying. The Curious Obsession was very good here. Alright, well, Garenbrig, huh? I guess we're going to hold on to that in case we draw a Valakut. I think now we just serve with both Dryads, as we're probably not blocking anyways. We have them on a 2-turn clock after this, so that's kind of nice. Our opponent has to find a way to keep these Dryads from dealing them damage. If they played a single creature to block, and then we top decked Valakut, they'd actually still just be dead. Things are not looking great for us, though. Have to admit, I think we might have lost this one. I like our opponent's deck, though. It's very creative, and I think it seems to be very well built. Oh, they're swinging all out here, huh? Alright, so Titan off the top, and our opponent having no answer works. Valakut off the top works. Bounce Land off the top is not fantastic. I mean, with that draw, I think we just go ahead and play out the Garenbrig. This gets us closer to Field of the Dead. Definitely attacking with both Dryads here. Put our opponent to 3. Okay, well, yeah. We're still not in the clear here, sadly. They do have Tarmogoyf in their deck. Bolt us, okay. Bolt, Snap, Bolt kills us here. Worth noting. They do attack with the Snapcaster as well, so I would assume they either have another creature or they have lethal here. Simic Charm to give +3/+3 to their Mandrills. That's 12 exactly. Alright, well, that is the game. Dang. And we would have top decked the Titan, of course. Alrighty, well, that was a pretty interesting match 1 there. Haven't played against a whole lot of Temur tempo here, but very cool deck from our opponent, and Simic Charm doing some unusually amazing work there. I always thought that Simic Charm was a pretty decent card, even though many people don't play it, so definitely interesting to see ourselves getting destroyed by that one. Admittedly, I'm not super surprised to have lost to a Delver tempo deck, as I have found those decks to be relatively bad matchups for Amulet. Let me know if you think there's any way I could have played differently or sideboarded differently, if you have any opinions on how that should have gone. Especially if I didn't do what you would have expected me to do, then let me know in the comments. Maybe I have a room to improve my game in this type of matchup. And I have nothing else to say. This was a very entertaining match, and I hope you agree. And if you do, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And this is Redface Menace, signing off.